On Wednesday, Amwad reported that the Trump administration had secretly offered Iran a new deal, citing a high-ranking official in Tehran. While this high-ranking official refused to give specifics, the report implied that this new deal might be centred around the idea of a nuclear consortium, an unorthodox idea first floated by Trump's Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff a couple of weeks ago, that would see Iranian, Arab and even American companies cooperate on uranium enrichment. So in this video, we're going to look at the slightly funky idea of a nuclear consortium, and whether it could provide a way out of this ever-escalating conflict between Israel and Iran. We're getting ever closer to 1 million subscribers, and 68% of you haven't even subscribed yet. So lend us a hand and subscribe today. So let's start with some context. Uranium enrichment is a process that increases the proportion of the isotope uranium-235 in natural uranium, which is mostly composed of uranium-238, the other main isotope that can't sustain a nuclear chain reaction. The most common method of enrichment is via centrifuges, which essentially convert uranium into a gas, uranium hexafluoride, and then spin it at high speeds. Because U-235 is lighter than U-238, the gas slowly separates, becoming slightly more enriched in U-235 each time it passes through the centrifuge. For uranium to be used for nuclear energy generation, it only has to be enriched to the point that U-235 accounts for about 3 to 5% of the total. For nuclear weapons, however, uranium has to be enriched to about 90%, a form known as high enriched uranium, or HEU. This is what people are referring to when they talk about Iran's breakout time. It's basically how long it would take Iran to make 27 kilos of HEU, which is how much the IAEA reckons you need for a bomb. The breakout time, therefore, is essentially dependent on two things: how much uranium you've already enriched and how many centrifuges you have. The more centrifuges, the faster you can enrich. Now, we should say here that, to have a usable nuclear weapon, Iran would then have to develop a missile capable of carrying a nuclear warhead, which is another task in itself. Most people, including the US intelligence community and the UN's nuclear watchdog, the IAEA, don't think Iran are yet trying to develop such a warhead. But Israel claimed a couple of days ago to have obtained new intelligence about a meeting between Iran's nuclear scientists and the IRGC, which Israel considers evidence to the contrary. While Iran's nuclear program actually began in the 1970s, when the Shah used nuclear technology supplied by Eisenhower in the 50s to kickstart a domestic program, the scale of the program only became apparent in 2002, when an Iranian dissident group published confidential documents detailing a clandestine program including a vast enrichment plant hidden in the mountains near the city of Natanz. In 2003, the IAEA went to have a look and duly found traces of HEU, thus concluding that Iran had violated the Non-Proliferation Treaty. In 2004, Iran subsequently signed what's known as the Paris Agreement with the E3, the UK, France and Germany. This was sort of the first ever Iran nuclear deal, and Iran agreed to temporarily suspend all uranium enrichment. In early 2005, Iran then offered to get rid of all its HEU and accept regular inspections in return for sanctions relief and deeper security cooperation between Iran and the E3. While France was open to it, the UK and Germany wanted Iran to abandon all domestic enrichment, but this was rejected by Iran's hardline president Mahmoud Ahmadinejad after he was elected in July 2005. And, well, the West and Iran have been basically having the same argument ever since. Iran insists on being able to enrich uranium domestically, and the West disagrees because they worry that Iran might use its enrichment facilities to ultimately create a nuclear weapon. For their part, Iranian officials make at least 5 arguments. First, they argue that anything else would make Iran precariously dependent on imported enriched uranium from third countries. Second, they point out that Iran's right to enrichment is protected by the Non-Proliferation Treaty, which prohibits countries from developing nuclear weapons but allows them to enrich uranium for civilian purposes as long as it's monitored by the IAEA. Third, they argue that Western anxieties can be mitigated by proper monitoring protocols. Fourth, they note that other countries in the region, including Israel and Saudi Arabia, have enrichment capabilities. And fifth, they see their enrichment capabilities as a point of national pride and scientific achievement in the face of sanctions. Anyway, there was a sort of stalemate until 2015, when Obama negotiated the JCPOA, which allowed Iran to enrich uranium up to 3.67%. The JCPOA also placed temporary limits on how many centrifuges Iran could use or build over the subsequent 15 years, aimed to keep Iran's breakout time down to about a year, all subject to constant monitoring by the IAEA. Trump withdrew from the JCPOA in 2018 and instead tried to use what he called maximum pressure to force Iran into making more concessions. This didn't really work, and Iran responded by building more centrifuges and enriching uranium up to 60%. So, once he returned to office earlier this year, Trump instead tried to negotiate a new nuclear deal. Originally, it looked like this new deal was going to look much like the JCPOA. And Witkoff told Fox News in April that Iran would be allowed to enrich up to 3.67%, exactly the same level as the JCPOA. However, a couple of days later, Trump apparently changed his mind and told the Iranians there would be zero domestic enrichment. Talks subsequently stalled and then collapsed after Israel, which has always opposed Iran having any enrichment capabilities, began its assault on Friday. Trump then took to Truth Social to demand Iran take the deal on offer and warned that the US could attack Iranian enrichment sites otherwise. But Iranian officials still insisted on Iran's ability to enrich uranium domestically. With war looming, on Tuesday evening, Witkoff sent a last-minute proposal to the Iranians, apparently centred around a so-called nuclear consortium, an idea that was first sketched out by Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi in talks with the US on May the 11th, before being picked up again by Witkoff at the last round of talks on June the 2nd. While details are foggy, there seem to be two main elements. First, for the process of producing nuclear fuel to be spread across multiple countries in the region. The inspiration for this seems to be Urenco, a Western nuclear fuel consortium that has a production network spread out across the UK, France, Germany and the Netherlands. It's not yet clear how this would work. America seems to want Iran to just build the enrichment technology and sell them to its neighbours, with the enrichment and storage happening elsewhere, while Iran insists on continuing the actual enrichment inside Iran, and then using its excessive enrichment capacity to provide nuclear fuel for all its neighbours. Second, investment by the US and Iran's Arab neighbours in Iran's nuclear industry, which would give the US and nearby Arab countries influence and oversight, on top of any oversight by the IAEA, while giving Iran some protection against future sanctions by implicating Arab and US stakeholders in Iran's economy. Unsurprisingly, there are a number of sticking points. Saudi Arabia, for instance, wants an independent nuclear industry, and it's not clear what happens to Iran's secretive underground enrichment plants or the uranium it's already enriched. Nonetheless, if all the relevant players decide it's better than a full-on war in the Middle East, it might work. Like a lot of things right now, this topic is increasingly complex and ever-changing. And here at TLDR, we're committed to learning more to help us understand the world around us. Luckily for us, our sponsor this week, Brilliant, helps us do just this. We know that learning a little every day is one of the most important things you can do, both for personal and professional growth. And Brilliant helps you get smarter in minutes a day. You can even perfect your skills wherever you are, whether you're on the go or winding down. It's the opposite of mindless scrolling. Brilliant has the perfect mix of engaging problems, competitive features, and daily encouragement that keeps you motivated and on track. For instance, Brilliant's data science content uses real-world data to train you to see trends and make better informed decisions. No matter your level of skill, these courses are perfect to start or continue learning data analysis, with a full suite of content covering data visualizations, algorithms, regression models, and more. Learn how to parse and visualize massive datasets from brands you know to make them easier to interpret. Plus, all content on Brilliant is crafted by an award-winning team of teachers, researchers and professionals from Stanford, MIT, Caltech, Microsoft, Google and more. To try Brilliant for free, visit brilliant.org/TLDR, scan the QR code on screen or click the link in the description. By doing so, you'll also get 20% off an annual premium subscription and they'll know you came from us, which really helps us out.